and welcome to this month's edition of Gender in Theater Part 2. My name is Sarah Andrews. I'm very happy to have y'all here today. Today you'll be watching an interview with Jack StockLynn and Kylie Jenifer Rose, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I had fun interviewing them. Here we go. Hello, and welcome to this edition of Words of the Wise, Gender in Theater Part 2. As y'all know, my name is Sarah Andrews. I'm one of the co-founders of Crave Theater, and I'm sitting here with the other co-founder of Crave Theater, Kylie Jenifer Rose, and Jack StockLynn. Well, Jack StockLynn's not a co-founder, but they're just a really cool person. So give us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Me?
Either one. Rock, paper, scissors it. I don't know. Whoever wants to go first.
Why don't you go ahead, Kylie?
Oh, okay, cool. Excellent. Yes, so I'm Kylie Jenifer Rose. Like Sarah said, I'm one of the co-founders of Crave. I also work as an actor, and I have a day job as like a paralegal. And I write and I sing and I do the theater acty stuff. So that's me. Take it away, Jack.
Awesome. My name's Jack StockLynn. My pronouns are he and him, and I'm primarily a circus performer and a circus theater performer. I create original circus theater works. I work as a trapeze soloist, and I work as a coach and instructor for trapeze arts. I also have a side job as a stylist and wardrobe stylist for commercial photography, and do clothing, sewing, and alterations. But most of my main work is as a performer and a coach.
I did not know that about you. For the people
keep getting cooler.
Right. For the people who are taking the time to watch this, Jack was one of my aerial teachers for a while, and so like just learn new things every day. That's awesome. So we're here right now to talk about gender in theater, and the whole premise of this web series is, what do you wish you could have told yourself as a younger person that you now know now? Sure. That you now know. So I'm not really going to put any limits on how this conversation is going to go, but you know, if you have something to say to that, go ahead and say it.
I mean, that's a really big topic to start from, and I'll think about particular things, but I guess the first thing I would tell little me is just make your own thing. Mm-hmm. Like, I spent a fair amount of time trying to do other people's work, and turns out that wasn't what was going to be best for me. Mm-hmm. And I could have started sooner making my own work. But it's hard to get the courage and encouragement to make your own work, because it's a lot. There's a lot of, you have to not only make the work, but you have to produce the work a lot of the time. And that's a really big job to do both of those things. And also the first lot of work you have to make is so crappy. It's so bad while you learn how to make work, but you just have to get through it. Yeah, that's one thing I would say to younger me, is get started making the bad work so you can get to the good work sooner. Because there's no way through that. You just have to do it.
You're reminding me of the first show I ever produced.
Right?
Which Kylie was actually a part of. It was a puppet show. And boy, that was a journey. It was so bad.
Yeah.
Adorable, but really bad.
Hopefully there's a kernel in there of like something you're like, they're onto something. Terribly executed, but they're onto something, you know? Yeah.
And, you know, you run into a lot of obstacles when you first start producing, of just like, because you don't really know what you're doing and you're playing it by ear, and imposter syndrome is very real. But as long as you keep looking at it as like, okay, I made a mistake there, but I can learn from that and I know not to do that again. And you just kind of keep building your way up as you continue to make your own stuff, which I would agree, Jack. I think that would be a big takeaway for my younger self too, because when I was going to college for acting, a lot of the lessons that they instilled were like, take whatever work you get, you know, as if you want to be an actor and like have that be your full-time job, you know, you take what you can get until you build yourself to the level where you could say no to things. But I think it's important to hold yourself to a higher standard of like only taking the gigs that spark joy in you, you know, and deciding what your standards are. Like, do I want to be in another misogynistic play that's maybe slight, or like a golden age musical that's like tearing women down all the time? I used to love golden age musicals, but as I've gotten older, I'm kind of like, I think I'm more of a feminist than take every single gig that I can get at this stage in my life. Like I'm so much more interested in seeing contemporary stories that tell that where like women are their own heroes, like, or you know, or anyone. Like I like that empowerment and seeing things from a different perspective. So I think those are things that you kind of learn the longer that you're on this planet, as you get to know yourself and determine your own like values and worth. But I think that's definitely a good thing for beginning actors to consider, is like, okay, where's my morality? What do I want the work that I am involved in to say about me? So,
because it will, whatever work you're involved in will say something about you. You ultimately, hopefully, read the script before you did it and then said yes, you know. So what are you putting your time? I believe strongly that the art we make can be, at its best, is hopefully a guide towards the future. So if we're just remaking the same old art and not examining it, then we're dooming ourselves to repeat history rather than making new work and looking towards the future. Or if we're doing old works, looking at the kernel in them that is valuable and evolving the work so that it can become a part of the future rather than just being a relic. Because I don't know, like museums are cool, but like leave the museum show in the museum, then, you know, like there's value at looking at history, but as far as my interest as an artist, it's not at recreating history, because history was not very kind to people like me, nor am I even really in it until very recent history as far as what is written.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. That's interesting that you brought up like museums, like keep history in its own place so that we can move forward. I mean, like when it comes to like this specific country, like I have taken the time to every year try to leave this country to go see art that is different and not kind of stuck in its ways.
Yeah.
There seems to be some kind of like disconnect for theater artists in America sometimes, where it's like they can't see how they can make something new. Like they think that they have to make the money, that they have to like do all these things that'll bring people in the door, right? But I don't know.
I mean, making a new work is expensive. You have to make it twice. One, you have to write it or create it, and then you actually have to put it on stage. And sometimes I often am trying to do both at the same time. I'm actually currently trying to figure out how to separate the two so that I can make each one a better product, you know? But like when you're trying to write it and produce it at the same time, that's intense and expensive, hopefully, right? Or expensive in blood and sweat and tears if you don't have the money, which I don't. So I cry a lot. Like, not everyone wants to do that. No. Understandably.
Both of you actually, Kylie is just working on writing their first musical, and you have this really awesome like series of shows. Is that the best way to describe it? Called Circle.
Yeah, it's a universe, and we keep going through it. It's a series.
It's a beautiful universe. I loved going to Sir Cupcake once I got the chance to go do it. So like, you know, when it comes to like making your own works, because both of those works seem very personal to me in different ways. So do you two want to like talk about that a little bit? About those works and about like how like that's part of the journey of just like demanding your own space in this profession?
Sure. Do you want to go first, Kylie?
Oh, sure.
I'm really curious to hear about your musical.
Yeah. So, gosh, Bad World is the name of my musical, which the cast recording's coming out soon. So exciting. It's wild. I wrote.
Tell me about everything. Now I'm super excited.
Yeah. So I wrote the first song as kind of a coping mechanism for myself in 2016, which is crazy that it's been that long. It feels like
that's short in musical development.
It feels like it's just never going to end, but I always want to rewrite everything, which is my blessing and curse as a writer. So it's based off of my personal experience as a survivor of sexual assault when I was studying abroad, and just the process and that sort of coming of age and coming to terms with what happened to me. And that kind of went into this beautiful, it was originally a one-woman show, and then we expanded it so that it would help to shed more light on the experiences rather of other survivors. So not just like cis white female identifying humans. And so there was a lot of research and, learning that had to happen for me as I'm, this very deeply ingrained personal journey, but also expanding that and embracing other survivors' stories and interweaving them into this wonderfully complex, at least I like to think so, story about, coming to terms with stuff and the cycle of grief, where it's like, it's not just, I've gone through this process and now I'm cured. That's something you carry with you for a while. So I've collaborated with a number of different people, and the cast that we hired on to join us also helped to develop their own characters. But my co-composer is James Liptak, and my co-lyricist is Jenifer Provenza, who's based in California. So yeah, it's beautiful and lovely. And there's definitely a lot of challenge and vulnerability that's involved with a project like that, because not only am I slightly a perfectionist when it comes to my writing, which means I'm like a little possessive of it and I don't really want to share it until I feel like it's ready. Sometimes you just need to throw it out into the universe. And I do agree with what you were saying about the challenges of producing something as you're also kind of writing it. I would definitely encourage people who have a story that's kind of lingering in the back of their brain to take time and make time for that fine tuning, and to be willing to get a select group of people who they feel, who they trust and they're willing to listen to get feedback to help to shape it into, the best product that it can be. Because if you're just in your own bubble, or you're only seeking out people who are going to say that you are the best writer in the world, you're not necessarily going to have the most incredible product at the end of it. You have to have people who are going to ask you the hard questions and make you analyze everything. And yeah, I think that's why Crave has been successful in a lot of the projects that we've assisted with when it comes to devised work, because we take a lot of time to kind of piece things together. We had 2 separate workshops for Bad World when it was the one-woman show. There was one that was focused on the music, and we got a lot of valuable feedback in terms of the character development of the attacker characters. And then the second workshop was primarily based on movement. So how the character of Rose and the attacker characters, when I was playing them both, went through the world and how that was connected with the music. So, and now we've got this cast recording, and eventually it's going to be on a stage, and it's going to be awesome. But, you know, we have a little bit of time before that happens. So yeah, that's the long and short, the whole epic saga of Bad World.
That's really exciting.
Yeah. It's very surreal. I don't know if it will ever feel like reality.
I mean, for flashes, it might.
Every now and then.
Right, I'm supposed to talk about my work now?
Yeah.
Great. So Sir Cupcake's Queer Circus is, as of this moment, it's a five show length cycle. World, I don't know. Each show essentially sort of stands alone, but there are a lot of characters that go through, and the stories connect as well. So each show kind of exists a little bit in its slightly own genre and idea as well, because the framing of the show I changed to support whatever the sort of nugget idea that is. I'll say that the problem I'm chewing on, that is the nugget of the show, I build framework around that. So I guess I have to backtrack a lot to, like, I'm a transgender man, but I'm also non-binary, especially in my gender presentation. But I'm pretty male identified internally. I just have an external presentation that's non-binary. What a good time. I think it's fine. Problems happen when I start interacting with the outside world, especially in like performance world. So I went to Cornish College of the Arts in the early 2000s, and I was like, cool, I'm gonna play dudes. And they were like, what are you doing, little girl? And I was like, not a little girl. So hopefully some of that has changed in the intervening time, but maybe it still hasn't. So for all of you gender adventurous people out there, good luck. I hope things are changing. I'm trying to do my part. But if you don't find the world you want to be in on stage, make it yourself or find someone who is. So I couldn't find someone who was making the world that would let me be me. So I had to make it. There's a train. I don't know if you can hear that, but I can. So sorry if I'm like distracted. So where was I going? I don't remember.
We backed up. Cornish. They weren't helping you create the world that you wanted to perform in, so you had to make your own world. Yeah.
And it's not like they didn't. They just were like, well, you look like this and no one's going to cast you as a man. And I was like, I'll cast me as a man then. So I did my minor at Cornish was as a playwright. So I studied a lot of making my own work, and in the work that I made, got to play whatever gender I felt like playing, which was really nice. And they were very supportive of that. But in terms of, I see what they were trying to do at the time was to sort of prepare me for the harsh reality of the live theater world. But it wasn't actually like, didn't serve me in terms of who I am as a person.
Right.
Except that it encouraged me to like, well, fine, I'll do it myself. So I guess it served me ultimately, blah. So anyway, in that quest of finally getting to a place where like, okay, I need to make my own shows and I need to make them as good as I can make them. What do I need to do? And so a lot about what Kylie was talking about is involving other people. For me, it's so important to have deadlines. Having deadlines and someone to hold them with me is the only way I get anything done, like completely. So I have now my little, I call them my brain trust kind of my core people that I'm like, okay, here's what I'm chewing on. Here's where this is. And they serve as like, okay, if I don't hear from you in a week, I'm going to reach out or blah, blah, blah. Or like, okay, cool. I'll expect that on Friday. I look forward to seeing it. And things like that help me finish the work, which is really, really important. So, making work is hard. It's really awful. Mm-hmm. Also great, glorious, all those other things that people say like, oh, it's so great to make your own work. True. And also it's terrible. It's really excruciating and it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of work doing things you don't love. Like I hate spreadsheets. I spend so much time on a spreadsheet trying to make my $5 turn into 50,000, you know? Mm-hmm. But that work is really important. And it's as much a part of being an artist for me right now as doing the script writing or becoming a character or envisioning the costumes, all those things. However, at a certain point, putting on too many hats stifles your growth. If I'm trying to maintain the spreadsheet and build all the costumes and write all the script and do the directing and do all these things, I can't spend any time working on my own character development, working on my part of the piece that I need to do, all those things. So I've had to let go of some of the process, which is hard to do, in order to get towards a better product. Because while whatever costumes I design and build are going to look like the costumes more or less I design and build in my brain, they're not going to be as good as someone who is maybe a costume designer more full time is going to be able to do. And maybe they'll do something different than was in my brain, but probably it'll be better. Mm-hmm. Right? Same for a lighting designer. Sure, I can hang rudimentary lights and get it done and have. Should I? No, I should not. Someone else should do that because they're going to do a better job. And so finding people that you trust and that get your vision and that you can afford is all part of like building that. And especially in the first works that you make, if you choose to go that route, you're going to be doing a lot of it yourself or you and your friends, and you'll learn a lot doing it. And it's not wasted work. Like now I can have a conversation with a lighting designer about what I want and I kind of know what I'm talking about, sort of, you know, and I'm able to understand what they're saying to me. Whereas if I hadn't spent time trying to figure it out myself, I maybe wouldn't have as much of a clue. So that's made me more well-rounded, but maybe more bitter also. So try not to get so bitter. Anyway, Sir Cupcake. So Sir Cupcake goes, Sir Cupcake, I love him. He's very sweet. He's very different than me and also very similar. A lot of the time it's a little puzzle that I'm solving in my personal life that sort of comes into the show and then weirdly is something a lot of people are dealing with. And then it becomes a moment. So I wrote a show in 2015 and we did it in early 2016. Where the end of the show is a literal dumpster fire. Like I had a fake dumpster built to have on stage and we had fake fire inside of it. And the show went up just a couple months after a certain president went into office in 2017. I don't know. Time is weird. Anyway, we had a dumpster fire on stage and it was really cathartic. and helpful. And I had no idea in writing it that that was going to be an important cathartic moment for us all to have. Anyway, I don't know what I was saying with that. Brains are cool. But in that journey of figuring out what I needed to make for my own self, I guess this is what I'm saying, is that in spending the time to make work that speaks to myself and what I'm going through, I discovered that it speaks to a huge swath of people. And the more I can be clear and distill what it is I'm struggling with into an idea that is concrete and build a world around it, the more other people will see themselves in that work and find relief and connection with it. That's what I was going to say.
For starters, like, your experience at Cornish is not similar to my experience, but it parallels it, where I was literally told by a director in college that I was cast in a show so that they could teach me how to be a woman or be more feminine.
Gross.
I know. Like,
so gross.
Like, I think I'm fine the way I am, but okay, I guess I don't walk daintily enough for you. But like, I bought into that a little bit though.
Yeah, it's hard not to.
Exactly. And like, so like, like figuring out that humans are such story animals. We like a good story, right? Like, something happens and we need to like figure out what it is. And we're like, okay, we need a story to like figure out what this is. Right. And that's what we, as I feel, theater artists are kind of in the business of. We're in the business of like trying to like distill issues down into a story that people can connect with. And like, good on you for just like saying fuck it and just like going for it and like putting your ideas out there, because really that's the hardest part of making theater, is just like having the courage to do it and to assume that other people are thinking what you're thinking too. So
yeah, I didn't know that other people were thinking it necessarily until I got into it. I'm like, oh, this is really resonating with people. I want to say something else about what you said about them, like dangling your dreams. Like you want to be a theater artist, so you have to conform in these certain ways. Like, you have to be more feminine or ladylike or whatever other garbage. I think that's so messed up to do to a young artist, is to like box them into this certain, like, theater doesn't have to require people be stereotypes of whatever variety of person they are. Theater doesn't have to do that, but people make it do that. And that's such trash. I think it's important to know, like, I try to know what I look and sound like, right? So what people perceive me as, so that I can do what I want with that information. Mm-hmm. And that's hard as a young artist when people are like doing stuff like that. You're like, okay, so I look and sound like a woman. Now you want me to do this thing, like be more ladylike so that I can have my dreams, like, but not framing it in a way of like, let's try this. I want you to be able to act in this way in case this kind of a role comes across. You're fine as you are. I think you're awesome. And I want you to also be able to act roles that meet who you are as a person. But I want you to be well-rounded, right? Nobody frames it like that. They're like, you need to be more ladylike. You need to be more this or this or this. And that's such trash. What a horrible thing to do to an artist, a young artist, to like deny who they are as a person as being worthy of their dreams. I wish that hadn't happened to you.
Thank you. I am beyond it, but I definitely use it as a talking point.
Right?
Like, That human who said that to me does not control me and does not control my art.
Right.
And as far as I'm concerned, if they're watching this, and they might be, they can take their opinions and shove it. So,
they can learn maybe to do a different thing and not squash people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think something that's interconnected with gender is body types and body shaming. Because one of my experiences in college was being told that I was getting too fat to be a ingenue performer. And I still carry that. I'm still a little bitter about that. I get indignant about it, but I don't think that it's helpful for young performers in particular to look at those cookie cutter molds of, the ideal stereotypes or archetypes. Like, it's good to know that those exist in this world and that some people put a lot of weight to that, but I'd much rather someone embrace who they are, and, all of the moles and wrinkles or what have you that comes with being a human, and just, hold that close in your heart. And I think that will help you to walk through the world with more confidence. And when you have more confidence, people want to cast you, because if you believe you're awesome, then other people will see that and be like, oh yeah, no, they're right, they are awesome. So I think those go hand in hand, and body shaming is stupid and shouldn't be a thing.
Well, I think all of that sort of stuff falls under the category of, like, I think of it as old ways of thinking. Like, you have to be, it's the same kind of old ways of thinking that have kept folks of color out of leading roles because they're not the right body type, or they're not the right this, or they're not the right that. And that's garbage. Like, Misty Copeland is a prima ballerina in this century. And she's like the first woman of color prima ballerina, or one of the first to rise to prominence in 400 years of ballet. And that's because it's holding to, like, oh, well, she doesn't look like this or that or the other thing. And that's some garbage that, like, that like, oh, you don't look like this thing, so we can't put you there. And that's old ways of thinking. Like, I'm heartened by a lot of things that are happening now as people are starting, like, oh, let's make sure to include someone that can do the role and embodies that feeling regardless of how they look. Like, yeah, we all will buy it. We can follow a storyline. Like, we're humans, as you were saying, sir. Like, we're humans that want to follow a story. We'll go with whatever is set out. There's this old, like, it has to look this certain way to be believable, and that's not true at all.
Yeah, I think talent will transcend however you look. If people feel an emotional connection to you, then you're doing your job. Like, the casting is good. If people feel, catharsis or are compelled to like the character, then it's groovy. Then it's awesome. Like, I don't know. Stereotypes get me all up in arms.
Yeah. Well, they're so limiting to people, and they limit the work and the art and the beauty that gets into the world. It's a shame. We can make a different choice.
Mm-hmm.
We can. And it's like, and that's where it falls on, like, the casting humans and, like, the directors and stuff. And frankly, if a director is going to look at me and say, your boobs aren't big enough to be considered for this role, or something like that, which is shit that happens, right? Yeah. Like, they're not worth my time as a person. Yeah. Right? Same thing in your situation. If a casting human's not willing to see you as a man, then they're not worth your time, frankly. Like, and fuck that noise. They shouldn't be trying to change you anyways.
Yeah.
So anyways, we're getting close to that sweet, sweet hour mark. So so let's just share some final thoughts on this topic, and then we'll wrap this thing up. I'm gonna ask Jack to go first, because Jack keeps making Kylie go first.
I know. I was like, no, Jack, you have to go first. Okay. So final thoughts on this. One, I don't know. I'm going to make it numbers for some unknown reason. Spend some time getting to know who you are as a person and see a lot of art so that you know what kind of art speaks to you as a human, like, and as an artist. There's when I'm watching things or I'm seeing things, if I'm like this and like can't hold still in watching something, which can either be really entertaining to sit next to or really annoying. Sorry, various audience member mates, when I was really excited about something. But like, if I find my body wanting to be a part of whatever is happening on stage, on film, in a gallery, like I've had those kinds of experiences with visual art, like that tells me that something in there is drawing me, and I'm going to be curious about it. And I want to know if it's curiosity that is inspiring to me to create. So know yourself as a person, get to know yourself as an artist, like what kind of art you want to make. And this one's really hard. I'm going to say it glib, but like, don't let other people's ideas of what kind of artist you should be get in the way of your understanding of those first two things. If someone says, you know, you're supposed to be a leading lady and you're like, I am a comic gentleman, thank you very much. Like, get on with yourself and do the thing that is really calling to you. And maybe if they're like offering you a lot of money to be a leading lady and it doesn't hurt your soul, get that money. But like, spend time and energy and focus and money going towards the things that you really want, that are really sparking you life, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'll say about that. 2, if you have side hustles that make you money, then you don't have to take roles that make you sad. So get a good side hustle. It's really important, especially when there's right now a pandemic. I'm like, cool, I'm leaning on my side hustles real hard because my regular hustle is canceled. So take care of yourself as a human being in more than one way. Because if you have a good foundation of human being care, then you have room to be an artist. But if you're struggling to keep your humanity and stay healthy and safe and all those other things, it's going to be hard to be an artist. So it's hard to remember to take care of yourself, but you are worth taking care of. And so I want you to do that for me, please. If for no one else, just for some random internet stranger says, please take care of yourself. So do that. I'm going to take that advice too.
Good words. Very good.
That's
words.
what I'll say.
Yeah, I don't know if I can say all of that any better. I think you covered it for the most part. I think the only other thing I wanted to add on to the conversation is that it's okay to say no. And it's okay to turn down gigs. And just that awareness that because there are those old ways of thinking, sometimes you have to be selective about who you decide to trust. Because I've been in situations where I had someone who's like, hey, let's hang out. I'll help you. I'll coach you on this monologue. And I was like, sure. And then they tried to use that to their advantage. And that's not okay. Just because you have a spark in you and you have ambition doesn't mean that you have to, do what other people think you should do in order to get where you want to go. So, yeah, I guess, slight caution, but also just embracing who you are. And yeah, I don't know. I'm all rambly now because feelings and stuff, but
I guess one more thing I'll say about that is find the people that you can really trust and that you connect with and that can help kind of be your armor or your life preserver, or whatever way you want to think about it out in the world, where you are going to run across those sharks that want to eat up your art and not give you any back. You know, like, have who your people that help you stay insulated and grounded and smart, and help you remember to drink water or get your work done and send them the draft script. Like, find who your community is. Even if you're a angry loner like me, you still need to have people that help you. And it's really important. And that, you know, if you know that you can say no to someone that's being weird while you're giving a monologue thing, like, you know what? I'm going to ask my friend Sammy. Sammy's going to help me out and not be weird. So cool. Bye.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Having a team of go-to folks to help you grow and who are willing to push you and give that constructive feedback with love.
Yeah.
Is a very useful thing as you navigate the theater world.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you two are awesome. Thank you for joining me today. And yeah, I'll catch you two on the flip side.
Bye. Good luck out there.
Bye. Well, that's our interview. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see and want to see more of it, please feel free to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Or maybe if you feel like it and you want to make sure these people get paid, like I do too, you can donate at cravetheater.org. So have a wonderful rest of your day, and till next time.